everyone, welcome back. I'm Faye and this is a review and demo of the Beauty Pie Everyday Great Skin Foundation. Let's get started. First, let's have a little chat about shades. Now, I have the two lightest shades. There are 15 shades in total. I can't really comment on the depth of the deepest shades and whether they have adequate deep shades. I will leave that to someone with more information than me. But I am going to be slightly grumpy about the light shades. Now, they have an online matching system, and this matching system is a good idea, or it would be a good idea if it was reliable. So what you do is you put in a foundation shade from a different brand that you already own, and it tells you which of the Beauty Pie shades you should buy. And this sounds like a really good idea, right? Because they should be able to purchase these foundations from other brands and compare them to their own makeup that they make and say what's similar. But it did not work for me, and I will show you what happened. I used their online matching system and it told me to buy the shade 75 Vanilla, which I did. Now, this is the second lightest shade, and it says on the website that it has a neutral undertone. First of all, this is too dark. Second of all, this is not a neutral undertone. Whoever decided that this has a neutral undertone should be fired, because this is so warm and it oxidizes, so it actually is going to get even darker and more orange with time. So where Beauty Pie do get some points is that I contacted customer service and I said, look, I did what I was supposed to do. I put in an existing shade that I own into your matching system. It told me to buy 75. It's completely wrong for me. Like, it's so dark and it's so orange. And they said, okay, we will send you the lighter shade, which is Superlight, which I will also swatch for you on my face. And this one also says it has a neutral undertone. And this time I agree. This one is more neutral. And you can see that it is lighter. But again, this is going to oxidize slightly. This foundation does oxidize. So I'm not particularly happy with the shade selection on the lighter end of things. And just for comparison, I'm going to swatch a few other foundations that I own so that you can get a feel for how they compare. This one is L'Oreal True Match 1.5 Neutral Linen. This is NARS in Gobi, so more warm but still quite pale. We have Clinique Even Better Glow in Breeze. So this one is a really good match for me. And I mean, you can just see now how this compares. It's darker. And can you see how that's gotten a slightly more warm undertone as it's dried and started to oxidize? This is the palest from number 7. This is Calico. Very, very neutral, almost grey. But again, you know, comparing this is the lightest from Beauty Pie. And finally, just to cover my face in random swatches, I have Wet n Wild Photo Focus, the original, in Soft Ivory. Do you see what I'm talking about with the pale shades here? They're not pale, and they're not neutral. Like, who would call this neutral? This is not a neutral shade. This is in no way a neutral undertone. This is so dark and so orange. I can't believe it's the second lightest shade. You can see down here that in these foundations we've got much paler options, and honestly, I just don't think the shade selection is good enough. I think they need to expand it, and I think they need to work on this formula so that it doesn't oxidize. So I would say you can use the shade matching system, but if it tells you something that's twigging wrong with you and you're thinking that doesn't sound right, go with your gut. Don't listen to the shade descriptions of neutral or cool or warm or whatever that are in the brackets, because clearly this is warm, not neutral. Okay, I'm going to shut up with my rant now and actually move on to showing you some application. This foundation is incredibly liquidy. Therefore, it's really not suitable to apply just directly with a sponge, because you are just gonna absorb all of the product into your sponge. So it actually says on the website to apply to the center of the face and smudge out with the fingers. So first I'm gonna show you how that goes. Obviously I'm gonna use Superlight, not 75, because we saw what a mess that was. Now, I know some people don't like to use their fingers, but what you can do is go over with a sponge once the foundation has pretty much dried down, just to remove any streaks, but because it's had a chance to dry a bit, you won't absorb a ton of it with the sponge. So if I take my sponge now, I can smooth out any little things that I don't like. Moving on now to a kabuki brush, which will give you a bit of a different level of coverage. This is from Real Techniques, and I'm patting, and you will get slightly better coverage with this method. The third way that I like to apply this is with a flat brush followed by a sponge. And now I'm going to let it dry a little bit. Then I'm going to take my sponge and lightly pat over the top. Fingers plus the sponge will be the lightest, and then the two different brush methods will give you slightly more. Now I'm going to cut to another day to show you what happens if you try and build up, because personally I don't think you should try and build up this foundation. I think that it goes cakey. I also experience it going patchy as you try and build it up. Like as I tried with my brush to build up the coverage, it took away some of the underneath layer, which is the opposite of what you want when you're trying to build up coverage. I feel that's lifting off some coverage on my nose, and it's gone a little bit patchy on my cheeks. So I'm going to see it apply a little bit more with the Beauty Blender this time. First of all, it's still not light enough. Second of all, the coverage is quite sheer, and when you build it up, it starts to look a bit makeup-y. We'll see. We'll see. We'll give it a chance and we'll see. Don't layer it up, it will go weird. So now I'm going to do a full face with my preferred method of brush plus sponge, and I will show you how it wears throughout the day. So here we have a full face. I will show you a little bit closer so that you can see. Personally, I think it looks a bit heavy and makeup-y for the amount of coverage it gives, but I will get closer so that you can make up your own mind. I'm not using any primer, I've just got my regular skincare on underneath. So we're going to test the wear of this foundation without any additional products. I am going to powder, but I'm not going to use any setting spray. So here we have my face done. I've kept the products on the face minimal, just a little powder bronzer, powder blush, powder highlight, as well as my setting powder. I set this with my favourite Gosh Prime and Set to keep everything matte. Now this usually keeps my makeup in place, not breaking up, not looking weird or in any way oily for hours. This is a really good setting powder for my skin type. Personally, it has hyaluronic acid to keep things from getting too dry and powdery. Now, I feel like it does look a little bit makeup-y. It's not my favourite finish. Personally, I think it's a bit matte for me. It does dry down. I have powdered it as well, but it does dry down, and it is more of a, I'd say, matte, demi-matte kind of foundation. And that's not my personal favourite because I have dry skin. But if you're oilier, you would probably like it. Now, I have put concealer on like where I need it, but coverage still is a bit... Okay. We'll see how it goes. Okay, it's super bright here, but I wanted to do my first check-in in just natural sunlight so that you can see more what I'm talking about with the colour being a little bit weird. This might actually be too bright for you to see properly, but can you see how it's kind of gone a bit more warm toned? Like the colour is really, it really throws me off, to be honest, because I can't tell if the colour is too dark or if it's just that it's too warm. It just, all I know is it looks weird and it doesn't look right. And I've tried it, you know, like a number of times now, a number of different ways, and every time it just looks a bit weird. Like I just think the colour match is not right, and it kind of, I don't know. It definitely oxidizes. It oxidizes a lot. Like it looks very different at this point now than it did when I first applied it. I mean, you can also see how this looks really makeup-y in natural light. I'm back for the final thoughts with a new face of makeup. This is the Clinique Even Better Glow Foundation. I've used all the same face powder products with it so that you can see a little bit in comparison with the Beauty Pie foundation, and I've also taken some shots in natural sunlight so that you can see that this is a much better match from my skin tone. The undertone is much better, it's not so orange and it's not so heavy feeling on the skin. Now, to wrap up, you already know that I don't like the shade selection, don't like the undertones, I don't like the way it oxidizes, I don't like the way that it feels kind of heavy whilst only giving light to medium coverage, and I don't like the way that it doesn't build without going cakey. I have tried so hard to find something about this foundation that is redeeming, that I like, but to be honest, there isn't really much. If you're just applying one layer and not trying to build it, it does blend out reasonably well. If you have oily skin and you're looking for something that's a light coverage with a more matte dry down, you might like it. For dry skin, it just feels too heavy and dry and cakey on the skin. It just doesn't like blend well into dry skin. I just don't really like it, and I don't like saying that I don't like things. I much rather find something good about it that I could say amongst the bad, and I much prefer it when I try products and I really like them. But you know, I can't lie, I didn't like it, and there is a really big problem with the oxidization and with the undertones, because even this, which looked like a neutral undertone, so the Superlight shade 50, did look neutral when I first applied it on the skin. It's not, I wouldn't say it's as close to neutral as this. This is a very neutral shade. This is CN02 Breeze. And it was a little bit warmer than the Clinique one. But when it oxidized and dried down, it got so much more orange. And that's just a really big problem. Like trying to shade match yourself to a foundation that's going to oxidize and you don't know what shade it's going to end up when you first swatch it is just a big issue. And honestly, like I prefer all of the foundations that I swatch on my face. Like if you're looking for a more sheer foundation with a matte dry down, I like the NARS Sheer Glow. I mean, it's called Sheer Glow. I thought it was going to be a little bit more moist, but I find this actually to be quite matte. If you want a similar formula, I mean, the reason I'm comparing it to Clinique Even Better Glow is that I feel like the formula is a little bit similar. Although this isn't as matte, they both have that kind of liquidy texture that you can't just apply with a sponge because a sponge absorbs it up. You need your fingers or a brush or something, maybe in combination with a sponge to apply it. It has a light to medium coverage. This, on one hand though, it does build a little bit. Like you can build this up to a medium sort of coverage. It doesn't go like weird and cakey, which I like. So I'm comparing it to this one because I feel like the texture of the formula is somewhat similar. And also because, so this is $28.50, which I know is more money than you pay for the Beauty Pie foundation if you are a Beauty Pie subscriber. So if you're a Beauty Pie subscriber, the foundation is I think $9.46, but they say on the website that the typical price is £30. So to me, that is them claiming that this is a £30 foundation that you are getting at a discount and that it should be the quality of a £30 foundation. And that's why I'm comparing it to something like this, which is $28.50, because I feel like they're claiming it should be comparable quality, and I just don't think that it is. And also, I will say, I think that the Beauty Pie foundation has a smell which is reminiscent of the photo focus. You know how everyone complains about the smell of this? Like everyone says, oh, it's a really good drugstore foundation, but it has a kind of paint thinner smell. Well, this one has a similar scent going on, which if you're claiming it's a £30 foundation, I don't think it should smell like that, personally. And you know what? If you don't mind paint thinner smell, just get this. just get this. I prefer this one to the Beauty Pie foundation as well. If you're looking for a good, just everyday medium coverage, I think True Match is great, and it's at the drugstore. You can go, you can swatch it, you can look at the shades and try and find one that's good, and they have a much better shade range and much better undertones in the True Match. I'm trying to find something redeeming, but I just don't like it. I just don't think it's good, and I don't like saying that, but that's how I feel about it. So I hope this review was useful to you in some way, and maybe was a little bit enlightening, or maybe like help you avoid wasting money. If you are going to get something from Beauty Pie, I actually really like their oil-free tinted SPF. I have one of those shades, and it's sort of a little bit comparable to Clinique City Block in the amount of coverage. It's more like a tinted moisturizer slash BB cream level of like coverage. It's just more of a tint that makes the skin look kind of a bit more perfected and healthy and glowing. And I really like that tinted SPF from Beauty Pie. I think that is a good product. This one, I would just avoid it. I hope you're having an awesome week. I hope you're having a lovely day. I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy. And I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye.